Clara, darling, hand me your Amex. I'm not paying for your dress or Chloe's. So this is how you treat your future family. It's only one charge. You can afford it.
I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams. Instead, I was marrying his mother's bank account. It took one declined credit card, a screaming match in a bridal boutique, and a hidden mountain of debt to show me the horrifying truth about the family I almost joined. Looking back, the red flags weren't just waving, they were practically slapping me in the face. But when you are 32, deeply in love, and convinced you've finally found your person, you have a remarkable ability to paint those red flags green. My name is Clara. I'm a senior marketing director at a tech firm in Seattle, a position I bled for. I grew up in a working-class household where every dollar was accounted for, and my parents sacrificed everything to put me through college. Because of them, I learned the value of financial independence early. By the time I met Liam, I owned my own condo, had zero debt, and a very comfortable safety net. Liam was an architect. He was charming, handsome, and possessed this effortless magnetism that drew people to him. We met at a charity gala, and within 6 months, we were inseparable. He talked about our future with such certainty that it melted my naturally guarded heart. When he proposed in Napa Valley, under a canopy of fairy lights, slipping a brilliant oval-cut diamond onto my finger, I truly believed I was the luckiest woman in the world. Then came the wedding planning. And with the wedding planning came the true introduction to Barbara, my future mother-in-law. During the first year of our relationship, Barbara had seemed like a typical, slightly overbearing mother. She adored her son, which I respected. She was a widow, having lost her husband 5 years prior, and Liam was deeply protective of her. He also had a younger sister, Chloe, who was 24, perpetually finding herself, and constantly bouncing between part-time jobs. I thought they were just a close-knit, supportive family. I had no idea I was being auditioned for the role of their primary sponsor. The subtle mooching started a month after the engagement. We'd go out for celebratory dinners, and somehow, when the check arrived, Liam would be in the restroom, and Barbara would look at me with an expectant, tight-lipped smile. "Oh, Clara, sweetie, my fixed income just doesn't stretch like it used to," she'd sigh, patting my hand. Naturally, I paid. I made good money. I didn't mind treating my future family. But treating quickly morphed into expecting. The breaking point the moment the illusion shattered happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon at an upscale bridal boutique downtown. I had taken the afternoon off work to go dress shopping. My best friend, Sarah, flew in from Denver, and out of courtesy, I invited Barbara and Chloe to join us. I had a strict budget for my dress, $3,000. It was generous, but I didn't want to start our marriage by throwing money away on a single day. I found a gorgeous A-line gown that fit perfectly and came in slightly under budget. I was thrilled. We were popping the complimentary champagne when Barbara suddenly stood up, smoothing down her designer blouse, a blouse I knew for a fact cost more than my weekly groceries. "Now that the bride is sorted," Barbara announced, her voice echoing in the boutique, "it's time for the mother of the groom to shine." Before I could process what was happening, Barbara was ushering a sales associate toward the evening wear section. She and Chloe spent the next hour pulling gowns. Sarah shot me a look of pure confusion over her champagne flute. I just shrugged, assuming Barbara was treating herself for the occasion. Then, Barbara stepped out of the dressing room. She was wearing a heavily beaded silver floor-length gown that looked more appropriate for the Oscars than a rustic vineyard wedding. "This is the one," Barbara declared, twirling in front of the mirrors. She looked at the associate. "Ring it up." The associate checked the tag. "Excellent choice, ma'am. That will be $4,800. I choked on my champagne. Sarah literally had to pat my back. Barbara casually walked over to the seating area, picked up her Prada handbag, and then turned to me with a saccharine smile. "Clara, darling, do you have your Amex handy?" The boutique went dead silent. The associate looked between us, her hands hovering over the register. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Your card, sweetheart," Barbara said, waving her hand impatiently. "Liam mentioned you got a nice bonus this quarter. It's customary for the bride's family to cover wedding attire. And since your parents are, well, you know, not in a position to contribute much, it falls on you. Consider it my welcome gift into the family." Chloe chimed in from the corner, scrolling on her phone. "Yeah, Clara. Plus, I saw a bridesmaid dress I want. It's only $1,200. We can put it on the same tab. I stared at them. They weren't joking. They were looking at me the way one looks at an ATM waiting for cash to dispense. I felt a hot flush of anger rise in my chest. Barbara, I said, keeping my voice as steady and polite as humanly possible, I am paying for the venue, the catering, and my own dress. My parents are paying for the rehearsal dinner. I am not buying you a $4,800 gown, nor am I buying Chloe a $1,200 dress. That is absolutely out of the question. Barbara's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard glare. I'm sorry. Are you saying no to me? Yes, I am saying no. She didn't scream or shout. Instead, she dramatically unzipped the dress, stepped out of it right there in the fitting area, and tossed it onto a velvet chair. Well, she snapped, grabbing her coat. I see how much this family means to you. Come along, Chloe. Clearly, we aren't valued here. They stormed out, leaving me humiliated in front of the staff and a stunned Sarah. I paid for my wedding dress in a daze and drove home, my stomach tied in knots. I knew Barbara would call Liam. I knew there would be a conversation. What I didn't expect was the absolute inferno waiting for me when I unlocked the door to my apartment. Liam was pacing the living room. His face was flushed red, and the moment the door clicked shut, he unleashed. "What the hell is wrong with you, Clara?" he shouted, closing the distance between us. I stepped back, startled. "Excuse me? Are you seriously yelling at me right now?" My mother is in tears. She called me hyperventilating from the car. Liam dragged a hand through his hair, looking at me with pure disgust. "Shimani, she asked for one simple thing to feel included in this wedding, and you completely humiliated her in front of strangers." "One simple thing?" I fired back, dropping my purse on the counter. "Liam, she demanded I put $6,000 on my credit card for dresses for her and Chloe. That is not a simple thing. That is extortion. You can afford it," he yelled, his voice echoing off the hardwood floors. "You just got a bonus. You have thousands sitting in your savings account doing nothing. Why are you being so greedy?" "It's my money, Liam. Money I earned. It's not for your mother to play dress up." That's when he looked me dead in the eye, his features twisting into an ugly sneer that I had never seen before. "We are supposed to be building a life together," he spat. "We are supposed to be family. And you can't even buy my mother a dress? Not even married, and you're already selfish?" The words hit me like a physical blow. The man I loved, the man I was supposed to marry, had just reduced my entire worth to my willingness to fund his mother's delusion. The silence that followed was deafening. I didn't yell back. When someone you love looks at you with genuine contempt because you won't surrender your hard-earned money, the anger instantly morphs into a chilling, hollow realization. "Selfish," I repeated quietly. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. "I am paying for 90% of this wedding, Liam. I pay the mortgage on this apartment, which you live in rent-free so you can save for our future house. And you have the audacity to call me selfish because I won't buy your mother a $5,000 dress." Liam crossed his arms, his jaw tight, completely unyielding. "You're missing the point, Clara. It's not about the money. It's about respect. My mother raised me and Chloe on her own after my dad died. She deserves nice things. In our family, we take care of our own. Then you buy it for her," I challenged, staring him down. "Use the money you've been saving." Liam blinked. For a split second, the righteous anger faltered, replaced by a fleeting, panicked look. He quickly masked it with a scoff. "My money is tied up in investments for our future down payment. You know that. It's not liquid right now. You're just being difficult to prove a point." Without another word, he grabbed his keys from the bowl by the door. "I'm going to my mom's to make sure she's okay. You need to seriously think about what kind of partner you want to be, Clara. Because right now, I don't even recognize you." The door slammed shut. I sank onto the kitchen stool, my hands trembling. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. She had taken an Uber back to her hotel to give me space, but her text was blunt. "Are you okay? Do I need to come over and help you pack his things in garbage bags?" I called her, and the moment I heard her voice, the dam broke. I cried, not just because of the fight, but because of the terrifying suspicion growing in the pit of my stomach. "Sarah," I whispered into the phone, staring blankly at the marble countertops I had worked so hard to afford. He panicked when I told him to use his savings. He physically flinched. "Clara, honey," Sarah said gently but firmly, You need to look into his finances. Now, before you sign any legal documents. I didn't want to say anything before, but the way Barbara looked at you in that store, she looked at you like you were an asset, not a person. After we hung up, the apartment felt suffocatingly quiet. Liam and I kept our finances separate, planning to merge them after the wedding. We were supposed to start looking at houses next month. He had claimed for the past 2 years that he was aggressively saving his $90,000 salary for a massive down payment, which was why I handled all the day-to-day living expenses. I bought the groceries. I paid the utilities. I paid for our vacations. I walked into his home office. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I felt guilty for snooping, but the accusation of being selfish rang in my head, silencing my conscience. Liam was incredibly disorganized, whereas I was meticulous. His desk was a mountain of scattered papers, architectural blueprints, and unopened mail. I started sifting through the piles. Utility bills for his mother's house. Bizarre. Why were they mailed here? In his name. Then, I found an envelope from a major bank, already sliced open. It was a statement for a personal loan. I pulled out the paper. My blood turned to ice. The outstanding balance was $42,000. I flipped the page to see the transaction history. The loan had been taken out 2 years ago, right around the time we moved in together, and he started living rent-free. But it wasn't the loan itself that made me sick. It was where the money was going. I quickly booted up his iPad, which was sitting on the desk. He used the same passcode for everything his mother's birthday. The tablet unlocked. I went straight to his email app and searched his bank's name. There were dozens of alert emails for completed wire transfers. I clicked on the most recent ones. Transfer successful. $1,500 to Barbara. Transfer successful. $800 to Chloe. Transfer successful. $2,000 to Barbara. I sat back in the desk chair, the screen illuminating my horrified face in the dark room. Liam didn't have savings. He wasn't building a nest egg for our future house. He was single-handedly funding his mother and sister's lifestyle. I kept digging. I found credit card statements in his name that were maxed out. What were the charges? Plane tickets for Chloe to go to Miami. Expensive dinners at steakhouses where I knew he took his mother. A $6,000 charge to a plastic surgery clinic in Beverly Hills, dated 3 months ago, right when Chloe suddenly needed a private medical procedure, and vanished for 2 weeks, returning with a brand new nose. Liam was in debt up to his eyeballs, over $80,000 between the loan and the credit cards. Suddenly, everything clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The rushed proposal, the insistence on me keeping my high-paying corporate job even when I mentioned wanting to downshift to start a family. Barbara's entitled behavior. They weren't just close. They were a financial ecosystem, and Liam was drowning. He hadn't proposed to me because I was the love of his life. He proposed to me because I was a bailout. I was the financial life raft that was going to pay off his secret debts, fund his mother's luxury delusion, and keep his sister in designer clothes. And the moment I refused to play the role of the endless ATM, I became selfish. I sat in that chair for 3 hours. The tears dried up, replaced by a cold, calculating anger. I didn't feel heartbroken anymore. I felt hunted. Around 11 p.m., I heard the lock turn. Liam walked in, looking tired but carrying a bouquet of grocery store flowers, a pathetic olive branch. He saw me sitting at his desk, the light from the iPad reflecting in my eyes, and the stack of bank statements spread out in front of me. He stopped dead in his tracks. The flowers dropped to his side. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice trembling. I picked up the personal loan statement, holding it up so he could see the horrifying $42,000 figure printed in bold black ink. "I was just looking for the down payment," I said, my voice deadpan, devoid of any emotion. But all I found was Chloe's new nose. The color drained completely from Liam's face. The real fight was just beginning. Liam stood frozen in the doorway of the home office, the cheap cellophane wrapping of the grocery store flowers crinkling in his tightening grip. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights, but the fear in his eyes quickly morphed into something far more defensive and resentful. "You went through my things," he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous octave. He tossed the flowers onto the floor and stepped fully into the room, pointing a finger at me. "You violated my privacy, Clara. What gives you the right?" "What gives me the right?" I echoed, genuinely astounded by his audacity. I stood up, slamming the bank statement onto the desk. You are sleeping in my home, eating the food I buy, letting me pay for an entire wedding under the guise that you are saving for our future, and you ask, what gives me the right? You have $80,000 in secret debt, Liam. You lied to me for 2 years. He ran a hand over his face, suddenly looking exhausted. He slumped into the armchair opposite the desk, adopting a posture of a misunderstood martyr. I didn't lie, Clara. I hadn't found the right time to tell you. It's complicated. It's not complicated, I snapped. I found the wire transfers. I found the credit card charges. You paid for Chloe's rhinoplasty. While I was comparing catering quotes and trying to keep our wedding budget reasonable, you were financing your sister's cosmetic surgery and your mother's luxury shopping sprees. Explain that to me. Liam sighed. A condescending sound that made my skin crawl. You don't understand my family dynamic. When my dad died, he left behind a mess. Bad investments, hidden debts. My mom was going to lose the house. I had to step up. I'm the man of the family. By taking out a $42,000 personal loan? I demanded. By maxing out credit cards for vacations to Miami? That isn't saving a house, Liam. That is funding a lifestyle they cannot afford. And you used me as a shield to do it. I was going to pay it off, he shouted, suddenly springing up from the chair. I just needed more time. Once we were married, and our finances were combined, we could have wiped it out in a year with your salary and my income. It wouldn't have even affected our lifestyle that much. You make more than enough. The absolute casually entitled way he said it stopped the breath in my lungs. We could have wiped it out in a year with your salary. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught before the ink on our marriage certificate was dry. I was nothing but a debt consolidation plan to him. So that was the grand scheme, I said, my voice eerily calm as the last shred of my love for him evaporated. I marry you, merge my accounts with yours, and suddenly I am legally bound to pay off the exorbitant debts of your mother and sister. And when I wouldn't buy a single $5,000 dress today, you panicked because you realized the ATM might have a withdrawal limit. Don't call my mother names, he warned, his eyes narrowing. She has been through hell, and she deserves to be taken care of. When you marry me, you marry my family. That's how it works. No, I replied, standing my ground. When I marry someone, I build a new family with them. I do not adopt their fully capable adult relatives as financial dependents. I will not spend the rest of my life working 60-hour weeks at the firm so Chloe can buy designer shoes and Barbara can play the wealthy widow. It's just money, Clara, Liam screamed, slamming his hands down on the desk. Why are you so obsessed with money? You have plenty of it. You're being incredibly selfish and rigid over pieces of paper. It's not about the money, I screamed back, finally letting my rage break free. It's about trust. It's about respect. You looked me in the eye every single day and lied to my face. You let me plan a future based on a complete fabrication. You called me greedy when you are the one siphoning my resources to cover up your lies. I walked over to the closet, grabbed his duffel bag, and threw it hard against his chest. He caught it awkwardly, stumbling backward. Pack, I demanded. Clara, be reasonable. It's midnight, he pleaded, the anger suddenly vanishing, replaced by manipulative desperation. Let's just go to sleep. We can talk about this in the morning. We can go to a financial counselor. There is no we anymore, I said, pointing to the bedroom. Pack enough for the weekend and get out of my apartment. You can figure out the rest of your things next week. Go stay with your mother. Since you've been funding her life, I'm sure she has a guest room ready for you. He tried to argue, tried to reach for my hands, but the look of absolute disgust on my face must have finally penetrated his thick skull. He realized I wasn't bluffing. In a tense, suffocating silence, he packed a bag, threw his coat over his arm, and walked to the front door. He turned back one last time, his hand on the doorknob. You're making a massive mistake, Clara. No one is ever going to love a woman as cold and calculating as you. Goodbye, Liam, I said. When the door clicked shut, I engaged the deadbolt. I didn't cry this time. Instead, I opened my laptop, pulled up my wedding spreadsheet, and started drafting cancellation emails to every single vendor. I was scheduled to lose thousands in non-refundable deposits, but at that moment, it felt like the cheapest ransom I could ever pay to buy back my freedom. I didn't sleep a wink that night. By the time the sun crept over the Seattle skyline, I was already at my kitchen island, fueled by black coffee and pure adrenaline. I had successfully canceled the florist, the photographer, and the string quartet. The venue, a beautiful winery on the outskirts of the city, required a phone call, which I planned to make the moment their office opened at 9. I showered, put on my sharpest suit, and drove to work. I needed the routine. I needed the distraction of my marketing campaigns to keep me from spiraling into the reality that my entire life had just imploded. I was at my desk, reviewing a quarterly report, when my desk phone rang at 10:30 a.m. It was the front lobby receptionist, Michelle. "Clara, I'm so sorry to bother you," Michelle whispered, sounding incredibly uncomfortable. "There is a woman down here who says she's your mother-in-law. She is. Well, she's causing a bit of a scene. She says if you don't come down, she's coming up to your floor." A fresh wave of dread washed over me. "Barbara, don't let her pass the security turnstiles, Michelle," I instructed, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I'll be right there." I rode the elevator down to the glass-walled lobby. Sure enough, Barbara was standing by the reception desk, tapping her foot impatiently. She was dressed impeccably in a beige cashmere coat and carrying that same Prada bag from the bridal boutique. When she saw me, her lips curled into a tight, humorless smile. "Barbara," I said, approaching her with crossed arms, "what are you doing at my workplace?" "We need to talk, Clara." "Somewhere private," she demanded, her voice carrying across the quiet lobby, drawing the eyes of a few passing colleagues. "We have nothing to talk about," I replied evenly. "Liam and I are over. The wedding is off. I am currently in the process of canceling everything." Barbara's eyes flashed with venom. She lunged forward, grabbing my forearm with surprising strength. "You listen to me, you spoiled little brat," she hissed. "You do not get to cancel this wedding. Do you have any idea how much embarrassment this will cause me? The invitations have been sent. My friends have booked flights." I yanked my arm out of her grip, stepping back. "Do not touch me. And frankly, I don't care about your friends. Your son lied to me for 2 years. He is $80,000 in debt because he's funding your lavish lifestyle. The gravy train has officially derailed, Barbara." She didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. Instead, she let out a harsh, bitter laugh. "Oh, please. Liam told me you went snooping through his private papers. You should be grateful he was willing to take care of his family. It shows what a good man he is. A man you are throwing away over pennies." $80,000 is not pennies," I fired back, my professional facade slipping as anger took over. "And you knew, didn't you? You knew he was drowning in debt to pay for Chloe's surgery and your designer clothes. You knew he couldn't afford it, and you pushed him to marry me, so I could foot the bill." Barbara adjusted her cashmere coat, lifting her chin in pure defiance. "Liam wasted 2 of his best years on you. You owe us. You dragged this out, making us believe we were going to have a stable future. Do you know I've already listed my house for sale?" I froze. The ambient noise of the lobby seemed to fade out. "You listed your house?" "Yes," she snapped, stepping closer, her voice echoing off the marble floors. "Liam and I agreed that once you two were married, it made no sense for me to live alone. I was going to move into the condo with you until we found a bigger house. I've already signed the broker agreement. Where am I supposed to go now, Clara? You are ruining my life." The sheer magnitude of their deception hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just the debt. It wasn't just the dresses. They had orchestrated an entire hostile takeover of my life. Barbara was going to sell her house, pocket the cash, and move into the condo that I owned. Liam had planned to trap me in a marriage, drain my income to pay his hidden debts, and install his manipulative mother in my spare bedroom. I felt physically sick, but that sickness immediately hardened into an unbreakable, icy resolve. "Michelle," I said loudly, not breaking eye contact with Barbara. The receptionist jumped. "Yes, Clara? Please call building security and have this woman escorted off the premises. If she ever returns, she is to be denied entry." Barbara's jaw dropped. "You wouldn't dare. I am your family." "You are nothing to me," I said, my voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper. "You are a parasite, Barbara. And so is your son. You can take your Prada bag, your spoiled daughter, and your crippling debt, and you can all figure it out yourselves. If Liam ever sets foot near my property again, I will call the police." Security arrived within 30 seconds. 2 burly guards flanked Barbara, who suddenly realized she had entirely lost control of the situation. Her face turned a mottled shade of red as they guided her by the elbows toward the revolving doors. She shrieked obscenities, screaming that I was a cold-hearted witch and that I would die alone. But the thick glass doors quickly muffled her tantrum. I stood there for a moment, taking a deep, shuddering breath. The lobby was dead silent. I gave Michelle an apologetic nod, turned around, and walked back to the elevator. By the end of the week, Liam's remaining belongings were boxed up and sitting on the curb outside my building. I hired a locksmith to change the deadbolts and installed a security camera. My phone blew up with vile text messages from Chloe and Barbara for days, calling me every name in the book, trying to guilt me into taking Liam back. I blocked all of them. I even received a pathetic, tear-stained voicemail from Liam begging for a second chance, claiming he would declare bankruptcy if that's what it took to prove he loved me. I deleted it halfway through. I lost nearly $10,000 in non-refundable wedding deposits, but every time I looked around my quiet, peaceful condo, a home that was entirely mine, free of lies, free of leeches, and free of Barbara, I knew it was the best money I had ever spent. I truly thought the nightmare ended the day I watched a cheap moving van haul Liam's boxed-up life out of my condo. I spent the next 3 weeks reclaiming my space, thoroughly scrubbing away every trace of his existence. I drank expensive wine with Sarah, threw myself into a massive rebranding project at work, and slowly felt the tension uncoiling from my spine. I was bruised, yes, but I was surviving. Then, on a crisp Thursday evening, my doorbell rang. I checked the security camera I had recently installed and saw a man in a bland gray suit holding a manila envelope. Assuming it was a courier for work, I opened the door. The man asked my name, shoved the envelope into my chest, muttered, "You've been served," and walked away. I tore open the envelope in my kitchen, my hands shaking. It was a lawsuit. Liam was suing me for $150,000 in sweat equity and domestic partnership compensation. The legal jargon claimed that because we had lived together for 2 years and were engaged, he was entitled to a portion of the equity in my condo. He also claimed he had made significant financial contributions to our shared living expenses, which had severely disadvantaged his own financial standing. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it made me laugh out loud, a harsh, manic sound that echoed in the empty kitchen. He had lived rent-free, siphoned off my income to pay for his sister's plastic surgery and his mother's luxury gowns, and now he wanted half of my home. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Instead, I marched into the downtown office of Diane Caldwell, one of the most ruthless family and civil litigation attorneys in Seattle. I slammed the summons onto her mahogany desk, alongside every single bank statement, utility bill, and screenshot of his secret debts I had compiled. Diane, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who radiated absolute authority, reviewed the documents in silence. When she finally looked up, a predatory smile played on her lips. "He's relying on the fact that you'll be too embarrassed or emotionally exhausted to fight this," Diane said smoothly. "He wants a quick settlement to pay off his massive debts. But Clara, in his desperation, your ex-fiancé has made a very, very stupid mistake." Diane requested a week to do a deep dive into Liam's financial footprint, utilizing private investigators and forensic accountants. What she found escalated the situation from a messy breakup to potential felony charges. A month before our blow-up at the bridal boutique, Liam had applied for a $50,000 home equity line of credit to consolidate his hidden debts. The problem? He applied for it against my condo. To do so, he had forged my signature on the application and submitted fraudulent documents claiming he was a co-owner of the property. The bank had flagged it and ultimately denied the application due to mismatched property tax records, but the paper trail of his forgery was absolute. 2 weeks later, we met for a mandatory mediation session at Diane's sprawling high-rise office. I sat straight-backed in a leather chair, wearing my sharpest black suit, feeling like a loaded weapon. The conference room door opened, and Liam walked in. He looked terrible, pale, sleep-deprived, and wearing a suit that looked a size too big. And, unbelievably, trailing right behind him was Barbara. She clutched her designer handbag like a shield, her chin tilted up in that familiar, entitled pose. "What is she doing here?" Diane asked, without missing a beat, not even bothering to stand. "This is a confidential mediation. Unrelated parties must wait outside." "She is my emotional support," Liam stammered, puffing out his chest. "She stays, or we walk. Diane shrugged, a dangerous glint in her eye. Suit yourself. It will be fun for her to watch. Liam's discount attorney, a sweaty man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, cleared his throat and launched into a prepared speech about how much Liam had sacrificed for our relationship, and how a $150,000 settlement was a bargain to make this quietly go away. I didn't say a word. I just watched Liam. He couldn't even meet my gaze. When the lawyer finished, Diane leaned forward and steepled her fingers. Are you quite done? Because we are not paying you a single dime. In fact, if you do not withdraw this frivolous lawsuit right this second, with prejudice, we will be going straight to the district attorney. Liam scoffed, though his voice cracked. You have nothing on me. I know my rights. Diane wordlessly slid a thick, glossy folder across the polished oak table. Liam's attorney opened it. Inside was the loan application, complete with the forged signature, the bank's denial letter, and a sworn affidavit from a handwriting expert confirming the forgery. That, Diane said softly, is felony fraud. Attempting to borrow against an asset you do not own by forging the property owner's signature carries a significant prison sentence. So, Liam, you have a choice. You drop this ridiculous lawsuit, sign a permanent restraining order keeping you and your mother away from my client, and disappear. Or, I make one phone call, and you spend your wedding day in a county jail cell. The color drained from Liam's face so fast I thought he might pass out. His lawyer aggressively whispered in his ear, pointing at the forged signature. Barbara, realizing the shift in the room, snatched the paper from the lawyer's hands. She stared at it, her lips parting in horror as the reality of her son's criminality washed over her. The golden child was a fraud. Liam, she whispered, her voice trembling. What did you do? Shut up, Mom, he snapped, completely losing his composure. It took exactly 3 minutes for Liam to sign the withdrawal papers and the restraining order. He didn't look at me once. He just kept his head down, his hands shaking so violently he could barely hold the pen. As they stood to leave, completely broken and utterly defeated, Barbara looked at me. There was no arrogance left in her eyes, only terror. She had sold her house, her son was drowning in debt, and their golden ticket had just slammed the door in their faces. Have a nice life, Liam, I said, my voice echoing in the quiet room. I never saw them again. A few months later, Sarah told me she saw Chloe working at a cheap perfume kiosk in the mall, looking miserable. As for me, I kept my condo, got a promotion, and learned that the greatest luxury in the world isn't a designer dress, it's the peace of mind that comes with knowing exactly who you are and never letting anyone discount your worth. If this story of dodging a massive financial bullet resonated with you, please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life relationship drama. Don't let manipulative partners or toxic in-laws drain your worth. Have you ever uncovered a massive secret that made you cancel a wedding or end a relationship? Drop your stories in the comments below. I read every single one of them. Stay strong, trust your gut, and I'll see you in the next one.